receiver-wise, we talked about with Adam, of course, the Tez Walker news is the biggest news of the day. If he is not able to play, I know that changes a lot, but, a guy like J.J. Jones, his eyes have to pop open really wide, and Kobe Paysauer, same there. I mean, it's going to change the offense. Just your take on that side of it. I don't want to talk about the eligibility issue. I think
he better be eligible. That's all I got to say. I mean, come on,
yeah.
Make the right. I mean, but trusting the NCAA to do the right thing is
probably not your best.
Yeah.
Probably not the best thing to do, but just from a purely football standpoint, if Walker's not out there, how does that change the offense, change Chip Lindsey's? Because I'm going to be frank and see if you agree here. I think Chip Lindsey's under a ton of pressure this year to produce a quality, if not elite, offense with what North Carolina has on the field. Losing Tez Walker, if that happens, is a gigantic deal that puts even more pressure on Lindsey and the rest of the guys. Who steps up?
Well, first of all, I agree with you. I mean, Lindsey this was a difficult job for Lindsey to take. Just because, look, Phil Longo's put up phenomenal numbers the last few years, right? So Lindsey could direct the best offense he's ever coordinated, and it would still potentially not be as good statistically as what Phil Longo's had the last few years. That's a tough spot to walk into. You got a lot of expectations there. You're walking in and, everybody says, well, you got Drake May. That makes it easy. Well, yeah, that also means that your expectations start, at 10. You got to turn it up to 11 just to impress. Right? So, yeah, that's a hard thing. Now, the thing that changes with Tez is, I've got Tez as a double-digit touchdown guy this year coming into the year.
Mm-hmm.
And most of those on vertical routes or the kind of tunnel screen type thing where you just get the guy the ball or you just throw it up and he just scores. He just changes the numbers on the scoreboard for you. Those guys make it a lot easier to have a quality offense, right? If you've got a guy where when you just throw it up, that, let's say you throw 4 deep balls his way over the course of a game, one of those 4 is going to the house. Well, geez, throw him 8, right? So that's what changes is that you're not just talking about a guy that goes up and makes a catch for, a 25-yard gain. You're talking about a guy that runs and hides because nobody catches him. That changes your offense. And that changes your offense too, because defenses start to tilt their coverages. They start to play different fronts. They start to do things differently to protect against that. They know that, okay, that guy can't run with that guy. So we've got to keep this guy over top. Then we're going to rotate down there. Now you got single coverage over here.
Yeah.
And now that guy's wide open a bunch. Right? Or now the guy in the slot, now McCollum has a one-on-one. Because they're worried about getting beat over the top with him. Now McCollum can go on a inside vertical from the slot, and he's got a one-on-one with a slot corner. Good luck, right? That's the sort of thing that a Tez Walker allows you to do. He changes your offense. And all you have to do is look at Clemson the last few years. We've talked about this, right? What did we talk about a couple of years ago? The difference, we all talked about what's the difference really between Clemson and North Carolina. Well, okay, up front, we talked about that. But the other thing that Clemson has always had is they've always had that dude outside.
The 6'4" guy that can fly.
Right. Mike Williams, T. Higgins, that whole group of guys, Nuke, Sammy, all those guys, right? They've got that dude out there that you can't single cover. And if you single cover Sammy Watkins, well, that's on you. That's just a bad decision, right? So that's the thing. And how did Clemson, with less overall talent, beat Alabama twice for national titles? Alabama's corners couldn't cover their outside wide receivers. And when in doubt, they just threw it up to those guys and they scored. And then Alabama started doubling them, and all of a sudden you had their little slot receivers just making Nick Saban bite through his own teeth. And then they double that guy, and then Deshaun takes off, right? Or, Trevor takes off. So that's what those outside dudes who can make those big plays in the vertical game, that's how they change the game for you. And Tez is that. And I don't think they have another one quite. I mean, they definitely don't have another one quite like that on this team. They've got other good quality receivers, but nobody else that's running like that at that size and, with that kind of just run and hide speed. I mean, go back to the Baylor teams, right? They always had a couple guys where they're going to line him up way out wide with those wide splits. You single cover him and he's just going to run vertical and they're just going to throw it. And it's like, well, they're playing PlayStation. That's cheating.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Well, that's what that guy gives you. So that's what makes it hard. If he doesn't play, first of all, it's a travesty and it's unjust to the young man because he transferred under one rule and then they changed it after that. And to me, it is wrong to change the rules on someone after they've actually started playing the game. You play by the rules as they were when you started the game. That's the rule. That's how it should always be. So all things otherwise, that's where I come down on this. But if he's not able to play, then you're going to need to get some big plays out of the other guys. And, I think that means, you mentioned JJ. JJ's going to play. He's going to play as an outside receiver. He's probably right now in the starting slot on the outside opposite where Tez was. Now it's really Green and Paysor that have to be that guy on the outside. Like the guy that would have to step up the most probably be Green because he's that bigger guy with, sort of a dynamic sort of downfield capacity. And, you'd like to see Gavin Blackwell. Blackwell's probably the next fastest wide receiver. He'd have to step in and do some things, but really Blackwell, Green, and Paysor would have to each up their game so much more because and create big plays because Tez wouldn't be out there to do that. And it would be harder because when those guys are out there with Tez, they're all getting single coverage. So yeah, very much more difficult situation.
Yeah. Imagine a situation that Nate McCollum is single covered by a slot corner over and over for this North Carolina
with
offense.
Drake May throwing to him.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about money. You mentioned PlayStation and money plays. That's one. And so that is from a purely football standpoint, it's a big deal for this offense, a big deal for Carolina. But like we talked about earlier, it's a huge deal for the person that Tez Walker is and his family and all that. So we'll see how it shakes out.